Jesse Rodriguez. Rodriguez looked like a guaranteed success at Real Madrid. During the 2013-14 season, he wasn't just filling gaps, he was trusted in big matches, scoring important goals and competing for minutes alongside world-class attackers. Carlo Ancelotti believed in him, and fans saw him as part of Madrid's future generation. Then came the turning point. In a Champions League match, Jesse suffered a serious ACL injury at the worst possible time, right in the middle of his breakout season. When he returned, the squad had changed. New signings arrived, competition increased, and his confidence never fully recovered. Loans followed, performances dipped, and off-field distractions began to overshadow football. What makes Jesse's career confusing isn't a slow decline, it's how fast everything disappeared. From starter at the biggest club in the world to drifting between teams, his fall remains one of Madrid's strangest stories. Adriano was once considered unstoppable. At Inter, he combined physical power with elite technique and a left foot that terrified defenders. Brazil viewed him as the natural successor to Ronaldo Nazario. Everything pointed toward global dominance. But the death of his father changed everything. Adriano lost motivation, discipline, and emotional balance. Training issues emerged, fitness declined, and performances became inconsistent. Inter tried to protect him, but the spark never returned. What makes Adriano's career confusing is that nothing football-related stopped him. Talent, opportunity, and support were all there, yet greatness slipped away due to personal tragedy. Alexandre Pato exploded onto the scene at AC Milan as a teenager. He scored goals immediately, played without fear, and looked like one of Europe's most exciting young forwards. At such a young age, he already felt established. Then injuries began to pile up. Muscle problems repeatedly interrupted his rhythm, stopping him just as he found form. Each comeback was followed by another setback. What makes Pato's career confusing is that his decline happened while he was still young. By the time he left Europe, his reputation had already faded, not because of ability, but because his body never cooperated. Bojan Krkić carried impossible expectations. At La Masia, he broke scoring records previously held by Messi. His first team debut came early, and comparisons followed instantly. But pressure arrived faster than development. Bojan struggled with anxiety, confidence issues, and the constant expectation to be the next Messi. Missed chances felt amplified, and freedom disappeared. He moved across Europe searching for stability. Roma, Milan, Ajax, Stoke, but never found a long-term home. What makes his career confusing is that he never truly failed. He was simply overwhelmed by expectation. Dele Alli Alli's rise at Tottenham was spectacular. He scored goals from midfield, dominated big matches, and looked like one of the Premier League's brightest young forwards. At such a young age, he already felt established. Then, injuries began to pile up. Muscle problems repeatedly interrupted his rhythm, stopping him just as he found form. Each comeback was followed by another setback. What makes Dele's career confusing is how quickly he went from elite to uncertain, without one single moment explaining it all. Jesus Vallejo spent nearly a decade at Real Madrid. In that time, he barely played. Despite multiple loans, injuries, and failed attempts to establish himself, he remained part of trophy-winning squads. He collected Champions League medals while rarely stepping onto the pitch. Now, playing elsewhere and celebrating domestic success, his Madrid career feels almost unreal. What makes Vallejo's career confusing is that he stayed at the top without ever truly being part of it. Mario Balotelli had everything: strength, technique, confidence, and a habit of scoring unforgettable goals. On the biggest stages, he delivered. But discipline followed him everywhere. Training issues, clashes with managers, and off-field controversies constantly interrupted momentum. What makes Balotelli's career confusing isn't talent, it's how often his own behavior stood in the way of greatness. Hatem Ben Arfa. Hatem Ben Arfa's talent was obvious. He could glide past defenders and create moments few players could replicate. On his day, he was unplayable, but consistency never arrived. Disagreements with managers and unpredictable form followed him from club to club. What makes his career confusing is that brilliance appeared often, but never long enough to build a legacy. Ravel Morrison. Morrison was once described by Sir Alex Ferguson as the most talented player he had ever coached. That alone shows the level of expectation. But discipline issues, poor decisions, and off-field problems quickly derailed his development. Despite multiple chances across different leagues, stability never came. What makes Morrison's career confusing is that his talent was never questioned, only his ability to manage it. Fernando Torres. Fernando Torres was a complete striker at Liverpool. Fast, clinical, and feared by defenders, he looked unstoppable. Then came the Chelsea move. Confidence vanished, goals dried up, and injuries took their toll. Despite winning major trophies and delivering iconic moments, his prime ended far earlier than expected. What makes Torres's career confusing is how quickly elite form disappeared. Ricardo Quaresma. Quaresma's skill was undeniable. Creativity, flair, and technical ability made him stand out everywhere he went, but tactical discipline and consistency were always issues. At elite clubs, he struggled to fit structured systems. What makes Quaresma's career confusing is that his talent was world-class, but his influence never matched it consistently. Jack Wilshere. Jack Wilshere looked destined for greatness. His performances against Europe's best midfielders showed rare quality. But injuries destroyed momentum. Every return was followed by another setback. What makes Wilshere's career confusing is that ability was never the issue, availability was. Oscar. Oscar was a key player for Chelsea, delivering goals in finals and Champions League matches. Still in his prime, he shocked football by moving to China. Financially, the decision made sense. Competitively, it ended his relevance at the top level. What makes Oscar's career confusing is how quickly he disappeared from elite football while still at his peak. Freddie Adu. Freddie Adu was labeled the future of football before he even grew up. Media pressure followed him from the start. Development stalled, confidence dropped, and constant moves prevented growth. What makes Adu's career confusing is that hype arrived before fundamentals were built. James Rodriguez. James Rodriguez was the star of the 2014 World Cup. Goals, confidence, and creativity made him one of the most exciting players on the planet. At Real Madrid, moments of brilliance were followed by long spells on the bench. Injuries, tactical changes, and trust issues limited his role. What makes James's career confusing is that talent was never in doubt, but continuity never arrived.